Here's Clark again. Oh, through again he goes. He's got Tutu with him. It's Ioane, in fact. Enrico Ioane.
Kia ora, tolo whalawa, and welcome to another episode of the RUCK, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the RUCK, Stacey, so thanks for joining us for another episode. We're joined today by one of our regular panelists, and the host of the Pitch podcast. So, Mr. Joey, mate, thanks for jumping on us. No worries, brother. I'll take care of some housekeeping stuff for us, and then we'll get straight into it. You can check out our website, www.weswesnet.com, and don't forget to click the support us button on the page to keep the content flowing. I'll also mention you can follow the RUCK on Twitter and Facebook, so give us a follow and give us a like on there. Right, so we'll get straight into our reviews. Start off on Friday night, brother. So Blues 40, Smoking the Force 19. So being a Blues man, I'll let you take the first word. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, well, bit of drizzle. You'd think, Aucklanders would stay home to avoid watching their own team.
Yeah, true that.
But the Blues did enough, and that's been generous. I thought Dalton had real opportunity to stand up, and I think he did. As did Lamb, as did Riccatelli, as did a few others as well. But as far as the lead up to finals footy goes, that was a pass mark for mine at best, because the Force, bless them, they tried to turn it into a bit of a dogfight, and the Blues almost let them unconvincingly. And if they don't find more of a rhythm soon, they'll be first-class passengers heading nowhere in the playoffs. So, pass mark at best, and that's coming from avid Blues support.
Yeah, well said there. I probably agree with that. We saw glimpses. There were glimpses of the Blues and who they could be. But I will say Beauden Barrett, he's just a class above, and if he stays fit, the Blues can get to the playoffs and give the comp a shake. I'll say I liked what Rico Ioane was doing as well at centre. He still needs more quality ball. There were a few times he was sort of used as a decoy, and they should have given him the ball. So I think he is still the best centre in the country. I know that a lot of Proctor fans out there, particularly on defence, I think he's the best centre. But the Blues just need to find more ways of getting the most out of his skill set and giving him better opportunities. So, in saying all of that, what I wanted from the game was a win with a bonus point. And we at least got that. So the Blues are right back in the playoff picture again. But yeah, I think that was a game that we had to sort of put them away a bit and get the 5 points which we got. So, we're at that stage now where we have to win all the rest of our games, and we got the 5 points, which is the main thing. Anything else you wanted to touch on with that Blues game before we look forward to the next one?
I just want them to, this is me being biased, I just want them to do better. And if they really want a shot at the title, they're going to have to do better.
Yep. I agree with that.
And I just think they've got enough firepower there, and personnel, and they've got the goods to go all the way if they really believe in themselves the way Moana have, man. But let's get on to Moana later.
Yes, good point. It's amazing the difference that confidence can add to a side. So we'll talk about that Moana game a little bit down the track, but yeah, I agree with that last point there. Right, we'll have a look at some of these games that came through on Super Saturday. So Drua 36 beat the Reds 33. I think we both picked that game when we did the preview last week. So mate, I don't know if you caught much of that one, but talk us through that one. Drua Reds.
For mine, this was the match of the round. The Drua at home in Suva. Nothing beats the passion, the colour, the noise, You could actually feel the earth move when Armstrong Rava slotted that match winner. Viliame Waka, is that how you say his name? He's a bit of a
Wonga. Yep.
He's a bit of a human highlight reel. I think for the Reds, Jock Campbell added a bit of polish, but they lacked that killer instinct, and you could see it. You could see that you've got to play fast against the draw in Fiji, but even then you'll still get punished with the 1,000 offloads, with the creativity that they seem to have in droves. Basic rugby just wasn't enough. Magic was, and that's what the drawer brought, and they had it in droves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just that draw, they can be a bit of a tough team to follow. They've got that Jekyll and Hyde nature, so they play like Tarzan at their home games, and they play like Jane away. So, but that's still another good home win for them against a very good red side, has to be said. So, but the draw are good at using those home conditions in their favour. So you think about that was a 2 p.m. kickoff and around close to 28-degree heat. So only one team is really benefiting from those conditions. And the draw, to their credit, they took their chances. So I thought, I'm with you. I agree with that what you mentioned about Wonga. Their Lucy's overall, they were very good. So they had, I think it was Tuai at 7. He was a real workhorse for them. And he got a good try. Wonga, who you mentioned, he carried quite well. And he got a few breaks. And that was a crucial reason for their win. So, well done to them. I know the draw are last, sort of looking at the table. They are 9 points outside the playoffs, but still, even now, even at this late stage of the season, they still mathematically have a chance on the back of that one. And that sort of speaks volumes to the validity of the competition, just as a whole, because, no team is out of it yet, as we can say. So it's going to be a lot of calculations to get the draw, and from this point. But I just wanted to mention that because that speaks really highly towards the competition this year as opposed to sort of previous iterations. We'll look forward to another one here. Hurricanes 35, Chiefs 17. So I think we've got that pick as well. I'll have to rewatch that one. Can't remember who. I think I picked the Hurricanes. Did you grab the Hurricanes on that one?
I did pick the Hurricanes on that one.
Oh, shucks, we should have definitely gone a multi. That would have been 3 from 3 thus far. Carry on. Well, talk us through that one, Hurricanes, Chiefs.
Yeah, so, look, let's call it. The Canes are actually humming, right? Ruben Lowe at 10. That's a bit of an inspired move, that one. He's balancing flash with fundamentals. 4 tries to Balin Sullivan. Unheard of. But can we spare a moment for Kenny Naholo's injury? The All Blacks bolter was in form, and I feel for him, and that limp off the field may be more than just a little twinge. So good luck to him, all the best. Hopefully he gets back in time and gets another look in once it's time to name the test squad. The Chiefs, however, without D-Mac, I thought they were basically toothless. They've got Crusaders next, and they better hope their talisman is back. Otherwise, this title run's in real danger for them. As it stands, I think the Chiefs are still ranked at number 1. Yep, they're still first. Crusaders are second with a bye, and the Brumbies are third. So, looking forward to the remaining games. But, we'll see how the Chiefs go if they can hold on to that number 1 spot.
Yep. That was an excellent win for the Canes. So I think you talked about Naholo. And, we did say that last week. He was a player who could potentially be an All Black, might potentially bolt in this year, or definitely an All Black of the future. So when he got injured, I'm sort of thinking, and he got injured quite early too, opening 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, gee, that might sway it towards the Chiefs there. they might be in a bit. But you're right, that replacement came on, Balin Sullivan, and you talk about making an impact off the bench. And he was outstanding. And I'm with you as well about Ruben Love. He gets a lot of reps. He gets talked up quite a bit as being the next big thing. And, we sort of got a glimpse as to why he gets talked up a bit, because, I'm sort of scratching my head a bit thinking, yeah, he's decent, but he's not as good as the reps that he's got. So it's good to see him sort of living up to the hype a little bit. And, him playing well at 10 augurs well for them, because they've got this new fullback who they've also unearthed, Harkin, I think his name is. And he looks like a potential gun in his own right. So you're right, I'm with you. The Hurricanes, sort of in the build up to the playoffs, they're starting to find their form as well. So it's ominous for them. I'll also say good to see Riley Higgins back. So you remember when we did our season preview, I talked him up as a potential All Black bolter. So he's missed a lot of games through injury. But that Higgins-Proctor midfield axis, that looks quite promising as well. So good to see Higgins back, I'll say. And a good win for them. The Chiefs, they've probably been the best team so far. So that's a really good win and an important one for them, given how congested the table is. So that win holds them in fifth. They'd probably be outside their playoff positions if they had lost that game. So, yeah, good win for the Hurricanes when they needed it too. If you haven't got anything else, we'll look at our next one. He's 40, Waratahs 17. So not sure if you caught much of that one. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it was one where obviously the Waratahs made a liar out of me, because I chose the Waratahs to win that one, backing the youth of the Waratahs versus the youth and the mix of oldies and the Brumbies. But I guess if you want structure, if you want power, if you want precision, watch the Brumbies. This was more or less a clinical dissection of, a confused Waratahs. Corey Toole, he was electric. Joseph Swally, he's getting stuck in. The Brumbies have had their wobbles, but they're building again, right? So for the Tars, I think there was just not enough fight. They're not technically out, but they are morally or spiritually done. But yeah, if you look at the ladder, the Canes are climbing, the Blues are clinging on for dear life. You've got the Drawer and Moana who are lurking like hungry dogs at the back door. And you've got the Force. They're fading. They're fading away into the oblivion. So, we said at the start of the season, depth and spark would separate the contenders from the pretenders. And look at the Canes. Look at how they've made their move. And, the Chiefs have blinked. The Crusaders, they're coming, as they normally do every season, every Super Rugby season. So, we'll see what the remaining games look like.
Yeah, agree with that. Brumbies just showing their class. So you touched on some guys there, which I also like, the outside backs here at the Brumbies. Tom Wright was awesome. Corey Toole, I agree with you. He had a good game as well. I'm not sure what's happening at the Tars. They've got a good team on paper, but they've just struggled, particularly away. They've really struggled. So I thought that was a good opportunity for the Tars, which we talked about in the preview. A local derby, Wallaby spots up for grabs, but they were poor. And that's sort of been the tale of their season, real mixed bag for them, which is unfortunate. And the Brumbies, they're the best team in Australia, and they showed that again, as they've shown for basically the majority of their existence. They've been the best team in Australia. So, well done to them. They're looking ominous. So, like you mentioned, sitting third, they've got a bit of a buffer to fourth. And we'll do some previews later on, but Chiefs Crusaders is one of the games coming up, and there's an opportunity for them to, whoever loses, to potentially leapfrog into second spot there, which would help them out even more. So, Brumbies are again doing what they do. They're always the Aussie team to beat. and they're showing that again, and they showed that in this game. So well done to them. If nothing else, we'll look on to our single Sunday game, which was Highlanders 29, losing to Moana 34. So talk us through that one. That was another good game.
Yeah, indeed. It was a thrilling encounter again under, Forsyth Bar Stadium roof. You'd expect the home team to, grow an extra leg with the home crowd, but obviously it was a bit of a landmark win for Moana, 34-29 over, the Landers. And, it was a bit of a seesaw battle. It featured 9 tries and there were multiple lead changes in the game. The decisive moment came in the 76th minute when replacement halfback Melani Matavao charged down a kick and scored, therefore sealing the win. But, Ari Savea, say the name again, Ari Savea. The grubber try will go down in folklore, sheer brilliance.
Yep.
Moana Pasifika, they're not just playing for respect anymore. They're in the top 6, and it's fully deserved. I never thought I'd say that as a true blue supporter. The Highlanders, they seem to be out of ideas, out of shape, out of the playoff race. They had a chance. They blew it. They had momentum, but when it came back to ruck time, they got monstered by a team who, seemed to be a brand new team this year. It's a bit of a sobering night for a Southern team that's basically lost its bite. Where the hell are you, Highlanders?
Yeah, I agree with that. That was a good game, good quality game. I'm with you. I thought the Highlanders, I thought they had it. They had it at the end there. And then like you said, there was that replacement came on, the charge down kick, and that saw Moana home. I think when we did our preview, I think Rog mentioned, the Highlanders were better suited with Tava Nawai at 12. And just looking at some of these stats from the game, so he had the most tackles and the most carries of all the Highlanders backs, and 5 turnovers won. So his battle with Danny Tuala, who I rate highly with Moana, that was one of the highlights. Even though the Highlanders lost, I thought Tava Nawai was good, and he will get picked for the All Blacks. In my opinion, he will get picked. I think so. But yeah, we talked about this a bit on the podcast. It's been a bit of a theme, but the closeness of the comp means now the Highlanders, yeah, they're right. They've dropped to second to last now, and Moana in the top 6 on the back of that win. So that was a crucial win for Moana, just in the context of the season. So well done to them. There's self-belief, which you talked about earlier in the pod, Joey, and that's coming through. And it's good to see the fans are starting to get in behind them as well. It feels like there's buy-in from the Polynesian community. We're really starting to get in behind this team, which we wanted, and which I thought would happen, if they could start stringing some wins together, putting some good quality performances, that the Polynesian community will get in behind them. So, yeah, that was really good to see. They had a lot of support there. Anything else you wanted to mention about that game before we move on to our next bit?
No, it's just pleasing to see an inspired team under the leadership of, the still playing legend that is Ari Savea.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much of a difference one dude can make. They were perennial bottom of the table team. Yet one guy, albeit, probably the best rugby player on the planet. And he's just turned them around. So good on him. I hope that, I don't want to say I hope they make the playoffs, because if they make it, that probably means the Blues didn't make it. But well, I hope they have a good season, I'll say that. So we'll get into some previews in the next part. So Friday, I think it's Friday night here. Draw against the Blues over in Fiji. Yeah, how are you seeing that one?
Drew against who?
Draw against the Blues.
Oh, in Fiji.
Yes, in Fiji. I'm just trying to pull up the details now.
Look, I think as much as
Friday night, yeah.
as much as the Draw have a really good record, the Blues know that it's a must-win. Every game is a must-win, and this is one of them. So I think the Blues just really need to go over there and get the W by all means. Whether that be a scrappy game, whether they try and shut down all the offloads somehow, they just need to find a way. And, it may be ugly, maybe an ugly W, but they need the W. And if they can get a bonus point, even better.
Yeah, it's Friday night, so to be a little bit cooler in Fiji, that might help us out a little bit. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, talk us through obviously we're doing this podcast before the teams are named, talk us through the rest and rotation sort of piece of the Blues. I'm not sure if they need to do some resting before the season ends, but is this a game that if you had to rest some players, is this the game that you're looking to rest them? Or are you just going to go all in just in the Blues team? Because I know the All Blacks have a big say in how many minutes, etc. everyone gets.
That's a tough one for me to answer as a former forward because I don't believe in rest. I believe they should play their best always. There's plenty of rest at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But that's one thing I'm really interested just in the team set, in the lineups, just how the Blues manage that rest and rotation piece, because we have got ourselves in a position where we have to win all our games, which means, like you say, ideally playing our best team available for the remainder of the competition. So there might be something I'll have a look at for our next podcast. Who is due a rest and when they're going to fit that in. But I mean, this is probably, I wouldn't be resting anyone if we don't have to. But I mean, I think that some of the guys will need a rest for whatever reason because the All Blacks said so. And I'm just trying to find a game to fit that in. You don't want to rest them and then the backup guys lose. But yeah, just on this, I think the Blues we have to win, and I think we will win. And I'll be playing our best team this week, maybe resting them against the Waratahs in the final week, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if we play our best team, I think that we can win. And I think that the Friday evening game, a little bit cooler, might help us out a little bit more. So that's going to be a good game. And I'm going to say, yeah, if the Draw lose, then they should mathematically be out. And if the Blues lose, because they've still got a bye to come, I think that they'll be struggling to make the top 6 from there. So I will take the Blues there in a close one. This is probably going to be of the remaining schedule, which we talked about last week. This is one of the ones which I was a bit 50-50 about, just the Draw in Fiji. So that's going to get a bit interesting. Yeah. Do you want to add anything before we look at our next one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some players that I'll be keen to watch. Tavita Ikanivere. He's basically the heartbeat of the Draw pack. So if he gets good go forward, look out, Blues. Dalton Papali'i, the turnover king, it seems. If the Blues are to survive, he's got to slow it all down. A key matchup that I'm looking forward to is Caleb Muntz versus Bodie Barrett. Bit of a generational clash. Young fire versus the old wizard.
Nice.
If the Blues try to go coast to coast with the Draw, they'll get torched. If they pin them deep and make it a territorial dogfight, they're in with a chance. So, they're just going to play smart in the Draw's backyard, basically. Draw want chaos. They want offloads. Yeah. They want the broken play. They want the touchline magic. Blues, they need structure. They need the set piece. They need the kick pressure. They need a bit of old school mongrel dog. They need that grind. So whoever imposes their game plan early wins. The Blues can't go over there thinking they could beat the Draw at their own game. No, hell no. There is a bit of an upset alert. I do believe the Draw have it in them to win, if the home crowd lifts. But the Blues just need to not run out of steam in the final 10, and I believe they can bring a scrappy win by 12 and under.
Yeah, good point there about the game plan as well, because you're right. If they start getting into their helter-skelter stuff, firstly, the draw are really good at it, but secondly, all that running around in the heat, it just torches your energy, burns your lungs out, and then the fatigue factor really becomes a thing in those conditions. So, yeah, you're right. We need to stick to the structures, just rumble through the forwards, play boring, win it's a real slugfest, and just try and win it that way. It doesn't have to be a flash win, it just has to be a win. So, yeah, that's a good point you bring up about the styles, which I like. Right, we'll have a look at the next Friday night game, another Australian local derby for them. So we've got the Waratahs at home against the Reds. How are you seeing that one?
I predicted the Waratahs to beat the Brumbies. They didn't. But this one's more evenly matched, I think. Especially given the Reds' recent performance, recent loss, if you like. And that one's obviously it's a coast versus country type of ordeal. You know, history, heat, and hammer blows, if you like.
Nice.
It's not just rugby; it's tribal, right? So it's kind of state of origin and studs. And that's at where? Allianz Stadium?
Yes.
Saturday night, under lights, under pressure. You know, this is the kind of fixture where form goes out the window. You know, it's going to be a scrap. It's going to be about heart. It's going to be about history. It's going to be about hate. The good kind, of course. You know, the Waratahs, they're wounded. Dead last on the ladder, or, you know, thereabouts. But when they face the Reds, the table standings mean nothing. You know, the Reds are coming off a stinging loss, and, you know, one they let slip in the final minute, so you better believe they'll be snarling. But the Tars, they're playing for a bit of pride, bit of, you know, for contracts and crowd respect. They lose this, and, you know, the rebuild talk gets ugly. So I'm looking forward to some key matchups. The two Sixers, Harry Wilson and Charlie Gamble, they both got points to prove to the Wallabies selectors. It'll be brutal. You've got Tane Edmed versus Tom Liner, the battle of the playmakers. You know, they are both similar in that they're calm game managers with massive boots. They've got pretty big boots on them. So whoever controls the territory basically wins the night. No, that's it. So, yeah, Reds by 6, but it'll be a war.
Nice. Yeah, these local derbies always a bit tough to predict. Just looking at some of the form lines, the Reds, after that loss, we talked about the draw loss, they've lost 3 of their past four games. So they're still well entrenched in the top 6, which speaks a lot about how they started the season. But, yeah, I feel that they need a win, you know, just for their own confidence as much as anything else. And yeah, it's going to be a tough one. You can throw always that extra spice in these local derbies. And I've been umming and ahhing about this one. Waratahs at home. I do think the Reds are a better team. So I will go the Reds, not with much confidence. So I'll go Reds by 6. Although your argument for the Waratahs was quite compelling, so you've got me a bit 50-50 on that one. Yeah. I'm hoping it's a better derby than that one we watched last week, because I thought that would be a lot closer, the Waratahs and the Brumbies. So hopefully they can put up a better performance this week. I'll say that much at least. But up next, probably the match of the round, I'm going to say, Saturday night. Crusaders at home against the Chiefs. So it's the top 2 teams going head-to-head. How are you seeing that one?
Crusaders at home to the Chiefs. Chiefs coming back from an embarrassing loss to the Canes. Crusaders are building. Oh, as much as I don't want to, I think the Crusaders are going to build on the momentum that they've started building. And because it's a home game, it's going to be hard for the Chiefs to go down there on the road, get one back. I don't see the Chiefs licking their wounds and recovering in time from the embarrassing loss to the Canes. I think the Crusaders are going to do a number on them. Well, not necessarily a number, but they'll get the W by 12 and under. So I'm liking their chances against the number one Chiefs.
Yeah, it's gonna be an absolute great game. I think D-Mac's been out for a couple of weeks now, so we're doing the pod before the team naming, like we mentioned. But he's actually proving to be quite influential for that team, which we know he was. So if he is back, I'll give the Chiefs a chance. But whoever wins this game will probably finish top of the table overall. And just the way the playoffs are structured, if you finish top, you basically get home playoffs all the way, even including the final. And whoever wins gets home playoffs all the way. They'll be tough to beat. So I will say, whoever wins this match, I think will go on to win the whole competition. It's still going to be close. There's a few matchups there. Last week we did our All Black teams. So Tokeaho against Cody Taylor. That's an interesting matchup there. And the way they use the bench, both teams. I know there's McMillan, who's the coach there, the Chiefs. He's opted for some bomb squads in the past with some guns, absolute weapons coming off the bench. So I wonder, quite interested to see how that unfolds as well. But I'm with you, Joey. I think the Crusaders at home, that's one of the hardest things in Super Rugby, to beat the Crusaders at home. So I think they'll have a bit too much. And I'm going to go the Crusaders in a close one. I'll probably 10 and under. Crusaders to win. And then the Crusaders to kick on and win a home final in Christchurch. Probably against the Blues, I'll say that at least. No. Yeah. So that's my pick there. The next game Saturday is, where is my list here? So we've got the Force Brumbies, another all Australian derby. Mate, how you seeing that one?
Mate, I don't see the Force beating the Brumbies. I do see it as, and it's in Perth, or?
Yes, in Perth.
So that'll be a 9:30 match for New Zealanders.
Yep.
To watch. I'm trying to find a way that Force can conjure up a win, but I don't see it. Like, this is a do or die moment for them, and against the Brumbies, it's like trying to arm wrestle a bloody tractor or something. You just.
Yeah.
Like, the Force have been gritty, they've been scrappy, they've been brave, but not clinical by any stretch. I haven't seen them once be clinical this season. The Brumbies, I think they're back in form. They rolled the Tars like it was a nightclub in Canberra. Perth is a bit of a graveyard for travelling teams. That's what the Force do have on their side, but I know that the Brumbies will hate that time zone and they won't want to bloody lose over there. They've got a rolling maul that is back to its best. They've got Corey Toole in open space. Basically means try time. Discipline's a concern, though, for the Brumbies. They concede penalties at bad times in the game when they're trying to get some momentum. The Force have a couple of decent enough players, Carlo Tizzano and Michael Wells. They've got to really dominate at the breakdown. They've got to slow it down or do something to win some ball for their backs, to try something against the Brumbies' backs. They've really got to slow the tempo and try and frustrate the Brumbies. That's basically the only way they can win. Frustrate the Brumbies, get them off their game, and capitalise on mistakes and bring in their home crowd to be that extra man. They've got to strike early, they've got to strike hard, and they've got to keep the lead. Basically, that's the formula to beat the All Blacks. Strike early, strike hard, and keep the lead. Don't let the All Blacks come back. So they've got to not let the Brumbies come back if they get the lead. They definitely can't chase this one from behind. So, in saying that, the Brumbies do have structure, which will, in my mind, dominate what the Force have, which is a bit of chaos. I think whoever dictates the pace will be the winner in the end. If it's a grind, the Brumbies will march on. If it's messy, Perth, might just erupt as a crowd, and the Force might just get that W. My prediction, though, the Brumbies should win. I do smell a little bit of an ambush brewing.
Nice.
Here's my prediction. If the Force lead at the half, upset by 3. If not, Brumbies by 10.
Ooh, there could be a half full-time double multi in there, Joey, based on that. Yeah, I quite like that. There's always a few upsets here and there. That's been the nature of the competition, and this could be the one. Now, if you sort of got a feel for one, this could be it. Because the Force, I think when we did our preseason prediction, I picked them to come dead last. But they've been decent. So there are some guns in there which you touched on. Some of those loose forwards they've got there. They've got that first 5 whose name escapes me, who's also been quite good. But yeah, the Brumbies are still the best Australian team. So despite all the potential for upsets, I'm just going to stick with the favourites. I'm assuming the Brumbies are the favourites, and I'll go Brumbies by 12 in that one. All right, that was a quick wrap of the previews. We got our TAB account also, my bro. So just for our listeners who don't know, normally what I'll do is I'll get a $10 bet and just take in a prediction from each of the people who are on the pod. So have you got a prediction, or do you want me to do my one first while you think of something?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I've got my prediction. We've got a big test match on the weekend, which with the Black Ferns taking on Australia. So there was some surprising selections, and some of the veterans and big guns being left out. Renee Holmes, who's been the fullback there for a few years, she's been overlooked, and Ruby Tui, another one. She's been in there for a long period. She's also been left out. But that does open the door for some of the young guns. So my prediction, Braxton Sorensen McGee, she's a fullback from the Blues. I'm predicting she's going to get picked with those 2 outside backs I mentioned not being there. And I'm picking her to get 2 tries on debut for our TAB account. So,
Nice.
Mate, have you got any prediction for us that we can check on with our multi?
I don't. Not this week.
That's all good. I think I'll do a half full-time double potentially on that Brumbies one. That sounds like a good rectification. Nice. We've been mowing through the podcast in good speed, man. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Because we're just about to wrap up. If there's nothing else you wanted to mention.
No, other than the road to the finals is heating up, so stay tuned, everyone. This is exciting footy on its way. The Drua and Moana Pasifika, they're basically writing fairy tales right at the moment. The Canes are looking ruthless. The big boys from the City of the Future and Christchurch are circling. So strap in. The run home is going to be a beauty.
Nice, brother. You haven't got much else to add as well. Just in closing, I know a lot of the rugby started up. I think the school rugby started this week, and some of the other clubs are in full swing as well. So, just good luck to all the teams out there. I did want to say a speedy recovery. So, Cam Saw-4 from the Blues. He spent a bit of time out of the game. I believe he had a cancer scare early on, and I think I saw a post where he might have had a relapse or recurrence of those that again. So I think he had a tumor removed recently as well. So he's going to be out for an extended period. Just wishing him a speedy recovery. And I saw another post as well. One of the female players who was quite promising. She had got accidentally stood on and she got a stud in the eye, which left her partially blind. So she has had to retire. Still a young lady in her early 20s, had to retire from the professional game. So wish her a speedy recovery. Her name escapes me. I can't find it here, which I was just trying to find as we were talking. But just two people who are looking to get back on their feet. Just goes to show, sometimes there's a bit more to rugby than, there's other things going on which are more important. So
it's true.
Just speedy recovery there. But yeah, if you ever got anything else, I think that's us.
All the best to that young lady in Camps 4.
Yeah. All right, cheers, mate. I'll say, just for our listeners, the Counter Ruck's available through the usual podcast platforms, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, many, many more. So keep listening and don't forget to click subscribe. Thanks, Joey, mate, for jumping on us and sharing your rugby knowledge. Thanks to Cams, who does our editing and everything else. And that's us. We'll be back again shortly with our next episode.
Now here's Clark again. Through again he goes. He's got Tutu with him. Does it Ioane